Story 1. The Never-Ending Dark. The Endless Descent. The protagonist and their group enter a village that feels like it exists outside of time and space. As they walk towards it, the horizon seems impossibly far, stretching into infinity. The village is surrounded by towering mountains that loom over them like ancient, watchful giants. Every step feels as if they're moving in slow motion, the air thick and oppressive, pressing down on their very souls. Once inside the village, the houses aren't just small, they're dwarfed by the immensity of the darkness that surrounds everything. The shadows cast by the buildings stretch impossibly long, as if they're alive and growing with each passing moment. The streets twist and wind, never leading where they should, looping back to the same places over and over. The sky above isn't just dark. It's an unending black abyss, vast and infinite, making them feel like ants in a universe far bigger than anything they can comprehend. In the distance, the shadowy form of an ancient, massive structure looms. A castle, a fortress, or something far worse, shrouded in an oppressive mist that rolls like waves in a storm. As they approach, the ground beneath them feels hollow, as if an enormous cavern lies just beneath the surface, ready to swallow them whole. Every element in the story, trees, roads, houses, the sky, feels impossibly large, towering, and overwhelming, giving the sense that the characters are trapped in a world too vast and incomprehensible to escape. The abyss beneath. The village is not built on solid ground. As the group explores deeper, they discover that the entire village sits atop an enormous underground cavern. Cracks in the streets and homes begin to reveal glimpses of the abyss below, a chasm so vast that it seems to have no bottom. Echoes from below suggest something massive stirring deep within the earth, a sound that reverberates through the village like a haunting call. The houses above grow smaller as the abyss below grows larger, as if the entire village is sinking into it. Massive stone pillars support the ground, but they are ancient and crumbling, barely holding back the encroaching darkness. Every step is filled with dread, the ground unstable beneath their feet, threatening to collapse and send them plummeting into the endless dark. The group realizes they're walking on a fragile surface, and something monstrous is waiting far beneath them. The Colossal Shadow. A new threat emerges from the shadows, an entity so large and terrifying that it defies logic. At first, it appears as just another shadow, but it grows larger, stretching across the entire horizon. Its shape is constantly shifting, too big to fully comprehend, as if it doesn't belong to this world. As it moves through the village, entire buildings are dwarfed by its size, crumbling in its wake. The group cannot escape its gaze. It sees everything, everywhere at once. Even in the shelter of homes, they feel its presence looming overhead, pressing down on them like the weight of the universe itself. The more they hide, the more it grows. Its shadow seeps into every crack and corner, consuming light and hope. It's a force that cannot be fought, only fled from. But where can they run when the shadow is all-encompassing? The endless path. The group decides to escape the village, but the roads out stretch into infinity. They walk for hours, but the path keeps extending, looping back on itself in a nightmarish maze. The surrounding forest grows taller, the trees now impossibly high, their branches forming a twisted canopy that blocks any chance of escape. The sky above is a churning storm of dark clouds that spiral endlessly, as if the village is caught in the eye of some otherworldly tempest. The path beneath their feet seems alive, shifting and stretching farther the faster they try to run. No matter how far they go, the village is always visible behind them, mocking their futile attempts to flee. The world outside feels as though it's closing in, expanding at the same time, trapping them in an endless loop with no exit. The Towering Giants. The group stumbles upon an ancient graveyard at the edge of the village, but these are no ordinary graves. Enormous statues of giant humanoid figures loom over the landscape, their heads scraping the clouds. The statues are so tall that the group must crane their necks to see their faces, which seem to gaze down with contempt. The air is thick with the weight of centuries of death and decay. The ground rumbles beneath the statues as if something massive is stirring beneath them. The towering figures are said to be the ancient guardians of the village, but now they seem more like judges, silently watching the group's every move. Suddenly, one of the statues begins to move, its enormous stone limbs creaking as it reaches for the sky. The group must flee, but they know they can't outrun something so large, so ancient. The statues are coming to life, and they are not friendly. The Echoing Void. The group descends into the caverns beneath the village, hoping to find a way out. What they find instead is an echoing void that stretches for miles in every direction. The cavern walls are covered in strange alien markings that seem to glow faintly in the dark, as if alive. Their voices echo endlessly, bouncing off the cavern walls and growing louder, more distorted, until it feels like the very air is alive with sound. It's a sound that grows unbearable, a constant, deafening hum that drowns out all rational thought. In the depths of the void, they find an enormous, ancient door carved into the rock, sealed for centuries. Whatever lies behind the door is massive, waiting to be unleashed. The group knows they should leave it alone, but the pull is too strong. They have no choice but to open the door and face whatever horror lies within. The Infinite Room. Inside the door, they find a room that defies logic. It's impossibly large, stretching on forever, with no visible walls or ceiling. The room is filled with massive, floating objects, ruins, pieces of homes, and enormous fragments of statues. It's as if the room contains the broken pieces of countless other worlds, all floating in an endless void. As the group ventures deeper, they realize the room is changing, shifting its dimensions. The ground rises and falls, gravity itself warping in strange ways. Time seems to slow down, their movements growing sluggish as the room stretches further into infinity. In the distance, they see something enormous, a creature so vast it fills the entire horizon of the room. It stirs, and with every movement, the very fabric of reality seems to warp and twist. The group must escape before they become lost in the infinite expanse forever. The Colossus awakens. The ancient creature they glimpsed before is now fully awake. Its size is unimaginable, its form incomprehensible. The Colossus rises from the depths of the infinite room, towering above the group like a living mountain. The ground shakes with every movement of the Colossus, massive cracks appearing in the earth. The creature's massive limbs seem to span entire worlds, and the air itself grows heavy with its presence. As it moves, reality distorts around it, entire chunks of the village floating into the air, swallowed by the void. There is no escape. The creature is too large, too powerful, and too ancient to be fought. The group realizes they are nothing more than ants in the presence of a god. The Collapse. The entire village begins to collapse in on itself, swallowed by the void beneath. Massive chunks of the ground fall away, disappearing into the abyss. The sky itself seems to fold inwards, collapsing like a dying star. Buildings crumble and fall. The ancient statues shatter, and the shadows grow longer, darker. The group runs, but the world is falling apart around them. The Colossus is the center of it all, its form growing larger as the village collapses around it. Time itself seems to be unraveling. The past, present, and future all colliding in a chaotic, swirling mass. The group knows they have little time left before everything is consumed by the void. The final horizon. In the end, the group reaches the edge of the world. Beyond the horizon, there is nothing but the endless void, stretching on forever in every direction. The Colossus looms behind them, its shadow swallowing the last remnants of the village. As the group looks out into the infinite void, they realize there is no escape. The world they knew is gone, and the void is all that remains. They have reached the final horizon, and beyond it lies only darkness. The Colossus reaches for them, and as they fall into the void, they become part of the never-ending dark, lost forever in the infinite expanse.